So the first question is, what other crises or unfolding failures is the COVID-19 pandemic linked with in your country domain of interest? And what is the nature of this relation?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can go Cosmina, Enrico, and Rui.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can. Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you. I'm Cosmina Paul. I can try to answer this question, and I prepared the presentation. Do you think it will be useful to share the screen, or shall we go in this format to answer each of us for each of us?
I think you can upload your presentation.
Shall I?
Yes,
Okay,
it's long. It's not long.
Okay, I'll be quick. I can do quick.
Okay.
I can do quick, and I will try to answer each of the questions posted on the email, and maybe this way we'll have more unity. Okay.
Okay. So should we start with you open the presentation? Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Just a second. Share my screen. It is going to be a very short delay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So first, I was thinking to give you an overview, and this is also the answer to the first question that Adriana was posing. So I think there are two phenomena: corruption and migration, and these are the most limiting factors also for the Romanian society at large. And they are the crises and the failures which are linked to COVID-19 crisis in Romania. And what I'm doing in this presentation is to discuss each of these and how they are linked to the crisis. And close to the crisis of the health system is coming closely next to it is the educational system, which also unfold inequalities and other types of crises. So this is a question Adriana was just shared with us, and this is my answer: that corruption and immigration will be the key factors and the most limiting factors for Romania. And that just I want to give you a quick snapshot of the situation in Romania. So it is in the very first when the very first case of coronavirus was confirmed, a corrupted procurement case occurred, and that was all over the news. And as the crisis was unfolding, many more cases of corruption occurred, and inefficiencies and the weaknesses of the health system. So corruption in Romania, it was corruption which also brought international attention. Washington Post mentioned Romania, along Bangladesh and Colombia as one of the states where corruption hampers the efforts of fighting COVID-19 crisis. And this was actually what happens now. The corruption in close connection to COVID-19 crisis is actually one of a long series of corruption unveiled and which stays for the last decade at the center of political debate for the last 10 years in Romania. And that is the case of the collective club fire in 2015, when 13 patients died due to hospital-acquired infections. And in the following years, Hexipharma was selling disinfectants diluted up to 10 times to hospitals. And all these very well-known cases of corruption and showed the crisis of the health system. That it is a crisis. There are also international data which are in line with these findings, which show that Romania spends less than a third of the EU average on health, and the weaknesses of the system also did not allow, especially that was for the first 2 months, the real estimation of the COVID-19 cases or the medical professionals' protection. Healthcare system is the fourth factor driving brain drain, but it is also a key factor for migration. As you can see here in the table, corruption is the first factor which drives immigration. and the healthcare system is listed the fourth. And the way migration is linked to the COVID-19 crisis is, first of all, it follows a long process of low-skilled migration, of the caregiving migration. So the people who are offering care in Romania for the last 3 decades were migrating towards the Western countries, and the high-skilled migration, the health professionals, this weakened much the system. And now, during the crisis, there is no choice but to return, and then there is no choice but to live for the others. And this was paradoxically the people, the Romania diaspora, which maybe you know, Romania has the highest rate of migration after Syria worldwide. So given that, many of the Romanian thousands were
Cosmina, can you hear us? Cosmina? Cosmina? I think there is a problem with the...
Yes.
Cosmina? So until she's coming back, I assume that maybe Enrico and Rui can answer.
Okay.
And I try to get into contact with her.
Mm.
Okay, so Enrico, please answer, and then Rui, and then I think she can. So the question was, should I address it once more? What other crises or unfolding failures is COVID-19 linked with in your country? What is the nature of the relation? So Cosmina, she was talking about the relation with the discussions about corruption and the brain drain, education, and maybe you can, I think this was a good starting point.
Yes, I in the is my audio is good. Okay. I don't have a scientific presentation for this first question, but during the last week I reflect about the structural challenges about Italian country in relation with the emergency COVID-19. The first crisis associated with COVID in Italy is the health crisis. This is clear. And more generally, the crisis of the Italian welfare state. And the cuts in the healthcare system have shown their downside in this emergency phase. The interesting thing is that the weakness of the health system has been evident in most opulent regions of the country. This is a very important, novelty, I don't know, in Italian debate. The classic Italian dualism between a backward south and advanced north appeared useless to read the COVID crisis and respect the historical debate about the differences between north and south. For me, study this kind of issues is very credible. The rhetoric between a constantly struggling south and the advanced north has been questioned. The Lombardy region has become the symbol of the new health crisis in Europe. One of the Italian regions where privatization of the health system is characterized the last decade. The crisis therefore made Italy's problem evident as a nation. There isn't in this moment the big differentiation between the condition about the health system between North and South. But this is a very big problem at the national level. Territorial inequality remain a determining factor in understanding Italian society. So it's, of course, in the economy, but it's now clear that whole country system has been weakened in the past 20 years. So the emergency showed the inequality in the country, overcome the issues of dualism between North and South. So this is, for me, is the first evidence that that to impose also in a sociological debate, also in economic debate. The second question, the second point about the first question, the crisis connected to the COVID is much more profound and concern a structural point of the Italian economic system, the presence of the black economy. This is the second important evidence in Italian situation. Black economy activities are widespread in nearly all the economy, but Italy appears to have a pronounced problem in this area. Small privately owned companies in Italy find it relatively easy to engage in black economy activity, mainly the practice of tax evasion that is fraudulent and illegal activity undertaken to reduce tax liability. This characteristic of the Italian economy does not allow to build a social plan that reflects the real condition of the population. This is another important question in connection with the public policy for development. This is a historical problem that have Italy, the black economy. But in this moment, is a very tragedy for to build a useless public policy for the citizen. This is a problem of low internal knowledge, and knowledge which is not placed among the priority of the political and government agenda, with an important part of the southern population working in the so-called black economy. A whole segment of the people lost job for which they cannot legally claim employment benefits. Those who do have legitimate employment have been given a path to ask for the suspension of some bills, but black economy workers, of whom there are estimated 3.7 million, have no such outlet for life. Italy's shadow workers are out of the safety net. It is a serious problem that failed to occupy center place on the political agenda. And that will also influence the effectiveness of income support policy. A problem of a policy with an excessive dose of ignorance is not a simple problem of absence of public policy for emergence of the informal economy, but a problem of fragility and fragmentation of scientific knowledge, or as absence of cultural, economic, and sociological analysis relative to informal workers. And respect to the first question that Adriana used for this debate, I think that the problem about the redefinition, the differences between North and South Italy is the first question, and the second historical question, black economy and the relationship between black economy and a new agenda for development in Italy. So,
okay. This for me, this is not just an interesting question, but also very complicated to answer in a context from Germany. because Germany is the motor from the European economy. And when German doesn't work well, something happens in the global, in the European community. But I think that because I'm in contact with some friends, they are working in the University Tübingen. This is academic hospital here close to Reutlingen. And the health system here in Germany, I think that is very organized. We can see how the health system here in Germany work with COVID-19. But there is one point that I would like to mention. This is this system, the management system in the domain from health system. This means that there are, for example, in Tübingen hospital, there are few workers, nurses or doctors, regarding to save money. And this is one point that I'm very, every meeting that have been, the first question that the German ask is how much money, what is the budget we have to handle some situations or to plan in the future some plan or project. And this kind of mentality that we have now here in Germany, I'm talking the context from Germany, this management, this lead to one thing that we see. This is for one side, the workers, few workers, more patients to care in the health system. The burden from the work is higher, and we see in this COVID-19 in the media, the doctors and the nurses to call for help because the situation was overwhelming because of the few workers. And the other point that connect from this situation for management, economic management, is that I see the immigration domain in the health system here in Germany. We see for one side, to save money is very important to contract people from east part from Europe or from south from Europe, and the salary will be less if they contract workers from native from here from Germany. And I think there's a domain still strong here in the German system. But I would like to mention another point that is linked from this COVID-19 pandemic that we can lead. This is a negligence from the part from not just from the German context, from here in Europe, a negligence to manage or to predict a crisis like this pandemic. Something miss here in the Europe, also here in the German context, to predict a crisis like this.
I talk so much that I forget to unmute myself. So thank you for this first. I think, Cosmina, you can now get back to the presentation, because I think anyway it got a bit, it started to talk anyway about the second question. So the second question is, what crisis do you think that there is do you notice a certain asymmetry between the crises that are addressed, in the sense that certain crises are given more attention? I mean, even like materialized while others are ignored. So, Cosmina, you have the floor. I will unmute you.
Yeah. Okay. So I will not go back to the presentation.
No?
I don't know if you think it's useful, because I just want to be more unitary, because all the other presenters do not have a PowerPoint. So maybe, I don't know. So I would, with regarding to the question, to this question, I was thinking that there are some, there is some crisis, for example, the unseen crisis for the older adults, because there is a
I'm sorry, but if you have some data, I think you can use the presentation if you have some data. It would be a pity not to.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Okay, I will go back to find the share screen. Just a second. Okay.
So we are discussing the crises which could be paid attention to but are ignored. Some points were also made about yesterday. For example, Adrian was saying that maybe this would have been a good moment to address the climate change topic. So Cosmina?
Yes. Yeah, I think that there are some crises which go unseen, like is the crisis of the dancing crisis for the older adults, because there is a high rate. This is what I was trying to say last time when I was when the sound system was corrupted. So it is a high rate of caregivers and health professionals migration, and the restrictive social distancing measures led to worsen of the psychological state of the older adults. And this crisis goes unseen. And we also talk about an unresponsiveness of the health system. So routine health care is impossible to maintain currently in Romania. And that is associated with much uncertainty and the duration and other measure of social distances, which are among the most strict among comparatively to other countries. And the difficulty for the older adults to meet the basic needs and social and the increasing stress, decreasing immunity. So all this ecosystem of factors which are affecting the older adults, I think it is totally unaddressed. And there are few stories which may go which may unfold. I think closely this crisis of the healthcare system, which is now in the center of the political debate, and as I said, it is for 10 years now. It was also already said that it closely follows the crisis in the educational system. And now COVID-19 forced online education in Romania, which brings more corruption to the forefront. And that starts with public procurement again. And there is this paradox of the fact that the internet, instead of bringing equality and inclusiveness for those socially and economically disadvantaged, will bring more inequalities because of the unreadiness of the system, of the limited access to computers and internet, lack of transparency, and the issue of teachers' ethic. So I think that there is no talk currently about online education.
Okay. So Enrico, if you would like to add something.
Yes. So about the second question, the point or the factor that in the context of Italy crisis to be ignored. So for me, I reflected during the last night about this interesting question. For me, is the process of the legitimation of scientific knowledge. I explain better. So, in the meantime, the credibility crisis of government institutions continue to be ignored in Italy. There is a clear lack of public trust in the political class. And this is another historical factor in the recent history of about the public policy in Italy. In fact, the relative success of the Italian lockdown, for instance, can be explained by the use of the expert scientific communication by virologists. But there is another point. In Italy, virus experts have occupied the dramatic share, Goffman would say. Also, at the regional level, each regional president has formed his one team of virologists. So-called scientific knowledge has entered in the public debate. Okay, this is a good thing, I think, in analytic sphere. And another very interesting thing is that the opinion and the heterogeneous decision of virologists have led to a collective discovery. Science does not give certainties. I don't know. Of course, a progressive process of the legitimation of scientific knowledge is therefore underway. Oh my God! Is also in a hard science there is in certain there is ignorance, there is an incapacity to build a future in the health field. Oh my God! Of course, I'm simplifying, and then in all countries at this historical phase we see the same phenomenon. But in Italy, the crisis of scientific culture, I think, is more serious. Remember that I'm talking about a country with the lowest number of university graduates in Europe, a country where elite newspapers are read, and where the status of scientific research is strongly attacked by the populist rhetoric. This is a problem that continues to be ignored on the government agenda, but that punctually influences the quality, the continuity, the affidability of public debate, or also during these emergency crisis. This is my reflection about the second question of Adriana.
Okay, thank you very much, Rui.
I would like to not disperse from the first question, because if I link the health system here in Germany, there is something that I would like to mention. This is a lobby, a political economic lobby also in the health system here in Germany. And because of that, there is something that here in Germany that for me was a kind of disappointment. There is the link between health system and digitalization. And I thought that German society, because of the contest of the German in the European level and the world level, in the economic level, could be more development. And there is something that this innovation from the health system still be, I don't know if it's ignorant from the public, from the political public, or there is something, a political economic lobby from the parties here in Germany. Because this kind of COVID-19 is an interesting chance that telemedicine, for example, to be implemented. And the other side, if we are talking about Germany as a federalism country, we see how diverse is the interesting from different counties, from the other counties, about the innovation from with the digitalizations. And this is something that I would like to share with you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we should move to the third question, and then eventually also allow the public maybe to react. And if there is no, we can come back to the fourth question. But I think, so because this is a workshop regarding the unexpected consequences, and now in the context of COVID-19, these consequences are very much projected, and we all already see the economic consequences, the health consequences. So, but this projection of what is going to come has some impact on what is our response to COVID. And I was wondering if you could comment on, is this projection of certain consequences does it help to mobilization or advance certain public policies, or it is just reproducing some problematic issues, structural elements that contributed to it. Why am I addressing this question? In the literature on crisis, there is this critical point that in a crisis, people, there is a need of agency, but they are too much engaged in tranquilizing the situation, but not in addressing the bigger picture. So, Cosmina, you can. I think you can come back to the presentation.
The reason for my open interruption. So I will give my answer like this. I am thinking that indeed the crisis can offer many opportunities, like the online education, and may address many other crises. But the budget allocated for the crisis now, the supplement budget is 3%. With 3% of the GDP, which is very low. And for example, Bulgaria is for 1,800 confirmed cases allocated a budget of a total economic stimulus of 10% of their GDP. So I think so this total economic stimulus is too low for meeting the whole crisis. And facing not only the COVID, the healthcare system crisis, but also the educational system crisis. So I think it is an opportunity, but they are not going to be addressed like many other opportunities which are lost. And Romania also, but they will be marked, I think, because Romania scores very well at national strategies. So Romania has over 300 national strategies where address inequalities, problems in education, innovation, development, you name it. But there are no documents of operationalization or the translation of these national strategies into indicators and into simple targets to be achieved. So for sure, these opportunities will be addressed and will exist on paper, but that would be quite the story. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Enrico?
Yes, I think that I try to build a link with your last sub-question, the COVID with opportunity to think more positive politics or not. I think that Italy is not opportunity, but a sort of a tragedy in this moment. I try to explain this point. In terms of public policy, the economic discourse is dominant and is in a context of a capitalism regime is normal. But useful intervention for emergency management are being created without tackling the country's structural problems. At this phase, efforts are made to support the income of the segment of the population most in difficulty, okay, in a conjunctural strategy. But even this effort is difficult to the presence of the informal economy. And I return to my second question about the black economy. We generally speak of emergency income and various short-term subsidies to support consumption. The emergency logic is embedding many fields of public intervention. This is a question. This is the very important thing in Italy. The emergency logic, the systematic method to manage the structural crisis. I think, for instance, of a cohesion policy in this strange time. In Italy, there is the possibility for the future of using the structural funds of the European Union for development of the South to face the COVID emergency. Is being discussed this moment in Italy. It's a very important point in public debate. Therefore, even public policy, which has medium and long-term planning risk, being eliminated. This is a reality. And in Italy, the public policy that use the structural fund of the European Union is the last policy that use a medium and long period to planning the complex and the clever, I don't know, interpretation. A choice that could have a strong negative impact on the economy and the social future of the South. This is clear. This is an indicator, I think, that should make use reflect a new temporal conception of a public policy for development. In short, there appears to be a particular inequality, a new inequality between countries, between those who can plan long-term policy and those who will be forced into a increasingly compressing time regime. And I think that in Italy, there is this kind of a risk for the future of a public policy. The correct time dimension for the planning, the development, for the planning, the territorial development. So.
Yeah, I think for my part, I think that of course that there is a projections and expectations, certain expectation with this COVID-19. And if I continue to say about the questions about digitalization here in Germany, I think was implemented 2 weeks, or there is something in discussion, but one thing we have to be careful, because to implement a policy takes time. There is in the local level here in Germany, this is the Kommune level, takes also time until a policy or something is implemented. Because I'm here and I know how it frustrates sometimes we as, because I'm part from civil society, we want the things change very quickly, but in the political scene, the things takes time. Last week, we was discussing about to have immigration representation in the Kommunen, in the Gemeinderat, they say, yes, in the council. For example, 2 immigrants that could also, with the elected body from the council, to discussing and to have a voice in the discussion, in the financial discussion, and these things that will take time, and this about the digitalization, to implement this expectation that this is my expectation also will have time, because there is something here. COVID-19 brings something to the discussing. This is the this APES, this kind from the RKI, Corona Data Spent, and this is something that somebody could now is free. People can have access to this happen. Means that in the real time, people can see who is infected with the virus, will not affect the virus. Of course, this brings something discussing in the levels from security, data protection, in something like that. Means what I see is that COVID-19 brings a new reality in terms of digitalization, and that will, I think this is, could accelerate more, or because of the lobby, political lobby, the economic lobby, could also take a long time until will be implemented.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it might be a time for a short break for you before going to the 4th question. So if anybody from the public would like to enter the debate or add something.
Hi, Mike here. So yesterday when we had the other panel, I think there was a consensus that going forward, there would be difficulty in getting anything positive out of this. And I think what Rui said at the end here was basically, you know, just from the digitalization perspective, you know, we'll get something positive out of that versus will the political economic lobby basically take over here. And, you know, based on my analysis on destructive institutions, you know, the underlying issues that drive this, I call, you know, legalized corruption, that basically that lobbying, and brain hacking, which is related to the ignorant side of this as well. So that looks like headwinds here for having any kind of positive change. Again, you know, back to the iron law of oligarchy in a sense, right? So I just want to ask the panelists, you know, straight up, do they see, you know, and just in a couple of sentences, do they see anything positive coming out of this? Real positive coming out of this in the end?
Okay, maybe let's wait with somebody else would like to address a point. Okay, so I think you can try to answer. Maybe let's use this question and let's I think it goes well with the second, with the last question that I prepared. If do you notice some patterns of some strategies of coping with COVID-19 or advancing a response which ring a bell in terms of other crises, the refugee crisis or the economic crisis or the corruption crisis. So if you see some patterns, and I think that this will also, this relates well with the question regarding if something positive will come out of it, because if you have an experience of positive coping with the crisis, then I think this might offer a good, a more optimistic, a good opportunity for a good answer, a positive answer. So, Cosmina?
Thank you. So I am thinking that the first answer, the first I want to say that I'm talking here in the context of Romania. So one positive thing which can be noticed comparatively to Hungary is the fact that there is no derapage, or there is no slippering towards populism or another kind of political agenda like extreme right agenda, or there is no kind of radicalization in the discourse. So we may notice this stability of the political combat that in terms of comparativity. Another positive outcome which might be is that in this context of Romania also so there is this crisis. We are already noticing this crisis of migration, which is going on for the last 15 years. And Romania, I want to repeat this. Romania is has the highest rate of migration, second up, right after Syria, worldwide. And this crisis of migration, for the fact that people was clearly seen that those who are leaving Romania to work outside could not keep the privilege of staying at home and of social distancing. So this was a privilege, and that was on the front page of the newspapers. And that might lead, I'm not sure about this, to an identity crisis. Who are we, the Romanians? Are we those who are harvesting the fruit and the vegetables to the Western countries? And might ring a bell and might go. So this identity crisis, collective identity crisis, might mean something for governance, for the level of governance in Romania, and for its steering capability. And on the same part, the fact that there are regions where civil society was mobilizing to serve the people in need, that also may lead to a very positive outcome and show the discrepancies in dealing with the crisis at the regional level, and lead to another types of political solutions or anything like this. This would be my try to answer this ambitious question on positive outcomes.
Okay, thank you very much. Enrico?
Yes, no. Maybe only the puntualization about the process of digitalization in economy is another question that merit a correct respect. I think that digitalization, yes, is positive. I think that just said Bashir is sure, but it's positive for those advanced economies where there are a company, as a big company, a medium company that produce added value and added good and service. This is a digitalization is don't remind positive or negative thing in terms of wealth, or in terms of right, or in terms the neutral is a neutral thing. For instance, in Europe, if I think digitalization, I think the possibility that the inequality between the economy of South and North Europe will be aggravated for these new important thing. I don't know about digitalization. Depend of a kind of economy, depend of a kind of your capacity country that you to use in correct mode these now kind of tools. I don't know, but is a neutral. This is my reflection. I don't know. With my bad English, I have more difficult to explain the complexity that you try behind the new technology or new mode to create a job or to create a possibility. But this is a neutral question that merited the scientific analysis, the territorial scientific analysis that reproduce exactly the level of the situation in terms of economy, in terms of sociality.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the internet connection, I think, was not a problem. I could, for me, it was quite transparent. And Rui?
What I would like to say, after I would like to not to answer, but to comment something that a colleague from United States, I forgot the name. He was commenting about the corruptions in the government, but I would like to say that there is some patterns here in Germany with this crisis from COVID-19. And that's what I see. This is the economic stimulus that the German government, they, I don't know if they learn, but it's something that comes from the financial crisis. This is the economic stimulus that the federal government here in Germany, they have now. This is something that is a process since 2008. They amended the constitution the way that all counties, 60 counties from Germany, there is a counties there in the south from Germany, for example, in Baden-Württemberg, they are the auto industry is very strong. This is something that the federal government wants to protect. And if we go to the north from Germany, for example, immobiliary sector is very important. This is and the federal government wants to protect some sectors from the German economy. This is how they protect through economic stimulus, and this is a pattern that we see now in the COVID-19. Is this kind that I said yesterday, temporary work? It's better to be engaged in the work for 3 hours or 6 hours, or even mini jobs, even if it's atypical or precarious jobs. Is better that the people be in the work, because the work values here in Germany is very important. If I compare, for example, from countries like Portugal in the south, because of the welfare system. This is something, a pattern that I can see, observe now with the COVID-19.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we ran out of time. Thank you very much for your answers. I think they were very well prepared, and I would like to thank you very much. I think it shows that this COVID situation, I think it brings to light a lot of problems, and it's not only economic crisis, but also identity crisis, like Cosmina singled, or something you cannot even see, like the black market in case of Enrico Sacco, and also the problem like Germany. I mean, Germany seems to be in control of the situation, but we see that it's not. So for the strongest actors, it's also not easy candy to break. So thank you very much. This was the last session of the conference.